I sat with Walter in the kitchen. Sunlight glittered on the lawn. Brown sparrows flew in and out of the limbs of the cherry tree, their yellow beaks trailing grass and twigs for their new nests. Walter had dressed himself with care, but his jacket and his pants were from two different suits, and the effect advertised his confusion. With deep concentration and puzzlement, he stroked the hem of his green plaid jacket where it met up with the blue plaid of his pants. The threads lined up, but didn't match. Walter scowled, trying to formulate a thought that disappeared before he could quite grasp it, like a bubble that gets bigger and bigger and then pops into thin air. Slowly, the bewildering nature of his experience revealed itself to me. In a nutshell, the fog had rolled in. He couldn't really see back to where he'd been in his life, and he clearly couldn't see what lay ahead. And where he was right now didn't quite add up. Sometimes a landmark popped out of the fog, but before he could make a positive identification, it was lost in roiling gray bewilderment. Walter's mental coverage of ordinary events was full of gaps that made him unable to understand, for example, how on earth the dirty plate that went into the dishwasher could then come out of it all clean. Sometimes such an event delighted him. Other times he'd be disturbed, unable to put his experience into context or words. He was oddly open, vulnerable, and present in the gap. I began to understand that reasoning was useless. Good old logic could no longer address the swell of raw feeling that overtook him with increasing frequency. Walter stopped fussing with his inexplicably mismatched outfits and turned towards breakfast, carefully concocting a melange of dry cereals in a mysterious ratio, slopping a little milk on his placemat because his hands shook. I think the other is just the regular stuff. It's this here, he pointed to the Raisin Bran, that really gives it flavor. He ate with concentration, grunting with satisfaction at the end of each bite. I love breakfast, he said, moving on to a slice of bread. Especially this final part, he said vaguely, knowing this description was not quite right. The bread? I asked, trying to help out. He looked thoughtfully at the slice of bread and finally accepted my suggestion. Yes, I guess you could call it that, he said, struggling to spread a pat of hard butter and mutilating the slice into a shredded mass that he then enjoyed.